Serious, since it was International Men's Day yesterday, what's one thing men struggle with? Getting people to believe women can sexually assault men. I am the victim of that, and while I will be honest, it was not as horribly traumatic as incidents some of my female friends go through. About half the time when I tell the story, the response I get is laughter. But if you flipped the genders, the guy would be in prison, no question. Had a girl I wasn't interested in kept trying to kiss me and hold on to me at a party in my early 20s. Had a GF at the time and it was awful. I ended up making a little scene and she finally stopped and cried. Some thought I was an asshole, but the shoe fit, so I wore it. Being taken seriously about our problems. As women from my city said, International Men's Day does not need to exist. Yep. Just general recognition of our problems, and taking them seriously. I hate the all or nothing mentality that women are oppressed and men are oppressors. It isn't that simple. There are some areas where it's beneficial to be a man and detrimental to be a woman. But there are some areas where it's the reverse. It's not as simple as men are privileged, women are discriminated against. We need to approach solving these problems with the mindset that there are many privileges and disadvantages, rather than just you are X, therefore you are privileged in general also. They might seem like petty complaints, but International Men's Day is a good example of how society views men and women. Every year, Google does a doodle for International Women's Day, and they do nothing for International Men's Day. And then we have the UN, specifically UN Women, tweeting Happy International Men's Day, but only to men who are allies to the cause of women's rights. Men can't have a single day about them without people finding a way to make it about women. Greater than I hate the all or nothing mentality that women are oppressed and men are oppressors. It isn't that simple. To quote a comedian Pete Lee, greater than you go on the internet and they'll be like all men are the worst. No, you mean Dave. Edit, found the clip. https://www.youtube.com/watch. V = 5s3opux6u. Attention. Serious, tag notice, jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted. https://www.reddit.com/r/wiki/index#wiki_rule_6, in any comment, parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an AMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please, contact the moderators of this subreddit /message/compose/?2=r/r/askreddit, if you have any questions or concerns. Constantly being told we're the problem due to the patriarchy. And if you don't agree, it's because you're toxic. If you bottle up all your feelings, you're suffering from toxic masculinity and should work on fixing that. But if you speak up about things that upset you, you have a fragile male ego. Don't forget, if you are critical of the term, you probably don't know what I means. Loneliness, depression, being told you're not a real man unless _ the constant desire for validation that never comes. Feeling unloved, unwanted, and unappreciated for almost all of my life. And when it comes, you're painfully aware that it's going to go away as soon as you stop being useful. I can speak for my husband when I say that he struggles with finding male friendships that can go deep, emotionally. He came from a group of friends who hug, tell each other they love each other, keep in contact, etc., and we moved away from them. Now he feels like any male friendship he makes is surface and doesn't connect. It's hard to make good friendships as a man if you don't share an experience with them, like going to high school together, ect. The internet is a little easier, but everyone's a freak online, so it gets weird. Yesterday was Men's Day. There's a Men's Day? Yeah, this is news to me too. I don't know, being a white male hasn't worked out too well for me at this point. It's my understanding that everything should be handed to me here at some point, But instead I keep getting blamed for all of the problems of the world while being reminded that any success I have had wasn't actually earned and was just because of my race and gender. Hey, I hear you. White privilege doesn't mean that you are just given things, it just means that you don't have more roadblocks than you should to getting what you need. That doesn't mean you won't necessarily struggle, and there is an economic/class dimension to your struggles as well, I would bet. If I'm wrong, sorry for my assumption. Overall though, I understand that it's not easy for many people right now. Stay strong. Having everyone automatically assume that I'm trying to assert some sort of dominance over them. No, Becky, I'm not fucking gaslighting you. You're just wrong. I had this happen to me at a doctor's office. The PA confused a B cell and a T cell. So I politely told her she had them backward, microbiologist, and spent too much time studying our immune systems. She got all offended and told me she didn't appreciate me talking down to her, but no. She was just wrong. Every thread I read about Men's Day yesterday was filled with comments from women who listed reasons that all boiled down to what men do for them to enhance their lives. Therein lies the problem. Men are not valued for our intrinsic worth, for who we are and our principles. We are valued only based on what we can provide, and measured against other men who may provide more. Every comment was, he listens when I talk. He isn't afraid to get me tampons and pads. He makes me dinner and keeps the house clean. That essentially cements the issue. It is socially acceptable to assume men's only purpose is putting aside all self-interest in pursuit of providing a better life for his family. Nobody cares about what we want or hold dear, only what we can provide for them. Sorry, but I refuse to base my entire existence on such a one-sided social contract. I'm not your beast of burden. A man's romantic fantasy is the antithesis of what society expects out of a man during the dating process and during a relationship. Many women would probably think that a man just fantasizes about the kind of thing that you see in various adult videos. Sure, we have an animalistic side that thinks about that. But when we think with our heart, we fantasize about something completely different. When it comes to romance, a man, typically, is expected to take on a very active role. He's expected to make the first move and do something or be something to prove his worth to her right away. He's expected to walk up to her and put on a good enough show in order to qualify as a candidate. He needs to be charming and or funny and or other beguiling enough to receive a passing mark on the entrance exam to dating. For a man, dating is work. It's a lot of work. He needs to put his heart and soul into a performance just to hope that it is enough to be noticed. But society expects the opposite for a woman. She is allowed to just be there. She just needs to exist and be visible, and it's expected that she just needs to be available for a man to make put on his display. Little of it comes with the risk of embarrassment or overt rejection. He comes to her and puts on his show, and then she decides if he gets the chance to move on to the next round of trying to impress her. The typical woman's romantic fantasy that society reinforces is for a man to come and sweep her off of her feet. It's for the man to put on such a good, enchanting show that there's no way that she could possibly reject his advances. Her fantasy is to have the ultimate active partner. The vast majority of high-selling and extremely popular romantic movies or romance novels reflect this. So, here's the point of all of this. A man's romantic fantasy is just be accepted for who he is. Men are tired of having to constantly put on a show. They're tired of putting so much of themselves into trying to read a woman in order to react to her and to be this wonderfully charming individual to pass her barrier of entry. He's tired of having so much on the line and then waiting those gut-wrenching moments where she's silently deciding, over the course of the attempt, whether he gets the thumbs up or thumbs down. A man just wants to be wanted for who he is on a regular basis. He wants someone who stand by his side and support him even when he can't be on. He wants a moment to feel what's it like to have that more passive role where someone else makes him feel desirable simply for being there. He wants a partner to show him that he matters for no reason other than being recognized as someone who actually does matter. A man just wants to be wanted. I'd say for me it's probably the myth that men feel safe at night. I'm a smaller guy, about 5 feet 5 inches and 130 pounds. Whenever I walk around during the night I do not feel safe at all and am pretty scared. Statistically, for men, victims of violence are mostly assaulted in public places like the street. In contrast, violence against women mostly takes place at home, in the form of domestic abuse at the hands of an existing partner. So you shouldn't feel safe or on the street just because you're a man. Source https://ovk.ojb gov/cite/info_flyers/info_sheets/2018/CVR/W2008_NCVR/assault_500_8_QC.pdf. How much of that is due to the fact that we're more likely to do dumb shit like go for a walk at 3 a.m.? Being taken seriously when upset as a traditionally masculine male. I've seen great big hard bastards upset about serious issues only for people to awkwardly disperse or outright tell the bloke to man up or some such nonsense. I work in the security industry and believe me, anyone can have their feelings hurt in the right circumstances. If someone is upset you can comfort them, it's not a bad thing to get upset. Height shaming, I would never even be interested one bit in a woman that makes fun of you just because you're 1 inch away from the perfect height. I hate them so fucking much. Edit, sorry for my language but I cannot express much. These people are what destroy mental states for some men. Edit. I wonder who's downvoting something talking about something that's such a big problem. 5 feet 10 inches/11 men unite. I don't mind because that kind of person just screened their shitty selves out of my life immediately. Lol. I'm just shy of 6 feet 1 inch and once asked a taller girl, I think she was 6'2" 6'3", out and was instantly shot down with I don't date shorter guys. I was a bit surprised, but dang did she have a small dating pool. Lots of men struggle with self-confidence because they feel they're not as good as others. Dude, that imposter syndrome is a killer. I can't tell you the number of times I think that Robert down the street has his shit together, and I'm just trying to hold things together. Robert can't afford the payments on his car. Law enforcement not treating abused men equal to abused women. The Duluth model has a lot to do with it. https://www.theduluthmodel.org/ what is the Duluth model /frequently asked questions https://www.theduluthmodel.org/ what is the Duluth model /frequently asked questions/ Greater than many women who do use violence against their male partners are being battered. Their violence is used primarily to respond to and resist the violence used against them. On the societal level, women's violence against men has a trivial effect on men compared to the devastating effect of men's violence against women. Holy fuck, this is why I became an MRA after the explosion of fourth wave feminism. I was raised a feminist and bought into it wholesale until I was in my mid-20s. That's when I started to notice what I believed and what I saw in the world didn't quite align. Things like the Duluth model came up. And I got ostracized from my social circle for questioning the core principle of patriarchy. Take into account I was trying to help homeless men at the time, but as soon as I questioned if patriarchy exists as depicted, not even that I didn't believe in it, just not quite as it was detailed, I got labeled a misogynist. Feminism has a lot of crossover with cult mentality, man. I'm glad in out of it. People yelling that bringing up men's issues undermines women's issues, turning down sex, just because. It's nothing to do with you. I feel fine. Just, not right now. Or getting her off and not orgasming yourself. I'm perfectly happy going down, fucking you every which way, and getting you to orgasm followed by some naked cuddling. Me not coming has nothing to do with you, and the only stress I feel about the situation is your insecurity because I didn't come. Fucking this. Being loved, sometimes we need hugs too. The day I get an unsolicited one will be the one I can die peacefully. Removed. A man being unemployed and jobless is much more ostracized and looked down upon by society. Sure, women have that aspect pretty hard too, and apart from being excellent spouses, mothers and such, they must also equally excel at their professional careers, as being a homemaker simply isn't enough nowadays, and stay-at-home moms are kinda looked down upon too. But, men emo, have that aspect much worse, and a stay-at-home dad or house husband is almost deemed a sinner by society. Granted, it's one thing to be a freeloader and be a leech of others' money. I'm talking about folks who legit try their best yet still struggle a lot in their professional lives and financially. Playing into Ops safe at night statement, the looks of fear if you're a bigger guy just for existing. I'm a bearish looking guy and I have a natural scowling resting face. I don't mean to do it, but if I'm not paying attention or just thinking about something I look angry. That combined with men not really being trusted around children has led to multiple confrontations with well-meaning people while watching my nieces and nephews when they were younger. Multiple times I've been asked to prove I was related to them, and one time a couple of women threatened to call the cops on me after I got fed up with their badgering and took my youngest niece away from the playground. I recently told my wife about the shuffle I do when I'm walking behind women or into a room with a woman. I always hated the look of terror when I accidentally sneak up on someone in the break room, so I make a small noise to announce my presence. I never realized how much that fear had affected me until I said it out loud. COVID has actually made it better for me when it comes to things like waiting in line. Before I always had to be careful about how close I was, especially if it was a smaller woman. I was already standing farther away from the people ahead of me than normal because if I didn't then I could see how nervous I made them. It's not that I mean to loom, I'm just a head plus taller and a foot plus wider than they are, and since I'm thinking about how I'm so ready to get down on a street taco or whatever my natural face looks like I want to murder someone. I taught kindergarten for a year. It's hard sometimes interacting with children without the dark negative thought in the back of your mind of how people might negatively construe any of your actions. Men can be great caretakers, love children, and not be pedophiles. But if you ask society at large, that's women's work and the guy must be a pervert. My daughter's kindergarten teacher is male. First time I met him he said she's so sweet. This other mom looked at him like he had said something heinous. Relax lady. Seriously chill. If an offending pedophile wants some ass he'll become a priest. Second one. Playing with kids. I can play with my kids, but if anyone else's kids come near, I feel the need to be exaggeratedly hands-off. Not because of the kids, but because I don't want to give a wrong impression to any bystanders who don't get it that a grown man can have fun playing with kids without something weird going on. Yeah, this is one of many reasons I'm child-free. I can't take my nieces and nephews out in public while babysitting without some lady questioning me and threatening to call the cops. I know people say that it's okay because their heart is in the right place, but that shit hurts. I have on several occasions told them to fuck right off. On one occasion she actually did call the police, and that didn't go down very well for her at all. She was charged with defamation of my character. 78% of suicide are male, 90% plus of prisoners are male, 60% plus homeless are male, 96% of military casualties are male, 78% of murdered are male. What else you want? Edit, I didn't even know there was International Men's Day. I thought it was cancelled because when they were trying to have a meeting about this topic it was interrupted and cancelled because of one feminist outside protesting. And seeing advertisements for charities with the reverse of these statistics, for example 1/3 of homeless people are women, please give generously. The hidden assumption that men showing their emotions is a sign of weakness. It basically made me suffer 30 years. I think for society as well, for men and women, it would be beneficial to get lessons on school about emotions and how to process and show them. At least in my day it was not the norm. I have a lot of self-doubt, but I feel like I can't express this, so I put on a facade of confidence. Believe it or not, mental illness. And the only thing worse than having mental illness is being seen as weak, inadequate, and insecure as a consequence. Source, was dumped by a long-term girlfriend after I cried in front of her for the first time. WTF? Serious? She dumped you for crying? Why? She just said, "I'd never seen you like that before and I didn't like it, it bothered me a lot." I found that some women only want a sensitive man as long as that sensitivity is directed toward them or their problems, and the moment that sensitivity isn't serving their interests, then that sensitive guy stops being sensitive and instead is just weak or unmasculine. I'm a human being with human feelings and emotions. I get frustrated and angry. I have problems that weigh heavy on my mind at times. Why does asking for / wanting help with my problems make me less of man? Why am I expected to help everyone with their problems, but when I need help I'm expected to just deal with it? It's time women started accepting their portion of the responsibility for toxic personality traits. Half of the time we're told that doing anything feminine is unmanly. The other half of the time we're told that doing anything masculine is toxic. What a bind. I've never heard it described that way before. Thank you. Everybody want men to talk, but in reality the space where men can truly open up is very little. Yeah, I don't get this. People say open up, you won't be judged, and then immediately judge the shit out of them subconsciously. There aren't many support groups, and the ones that do exist I've seen shun men out. I'm obviously talking about the ones media reported on. Rather than saying to open up, give us a place to do just that. Saw a comment in another thread comparing men's inner thought with a house foundation. People want to see it but expect it to be good and strong. If it's not to their liking, they look elsewhere. It's a fucked up comparison, but an accurate one. For all of the breast cancer awareness campaigns out there, almost none acknowledge that men, no, not just trans men, get breast cancer. They don't have to have man boobs, either. I had to explain to a grown-ass Vietnamese guy I worked with that men too can get breast cancer. I don't understand why it's a hard to understand concept by so many people. Society comparing us to a very small, very elite section of males, and thinking that statistically represents all of us. People complaining about men running everything like there is a good 95% of us doing the bullshit work no one wants to do as well. There are women that do that bullshit work as well, but people vastly overestimate how much power a lot of dudes actually have in a society, work structure. Sure, maybe a lot of CEOs are dudes, but for the rest of the population they aren't. 200k plus CEOs.